Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the LMC channel. I'm your host, Liam, and today we are going to be talking about Sega's new release, being the Sega Genesis Mini 2. Now, if you, ladies and gentlemen, haven't heard, or you've been living under a rock, Sega has been re-releasing their classic consoles in miniature format ever since 2019's Sega Genesis Mini, after Nintendo decided to release their consoles in miniature format. In fact, Sega's been doing it before Nintendo with those at-games consoles. You remember those ones? The ones with poor quality and awful emulation? Yeah, that was from 2005? I remember going to Bed Bath & Beyond. A Bed Bath & Beyond and seeing a Sega Genesis, those flash games, right there on display. And it had Sonic 1, Echo, and all that stuff. I'm happy I didn't get that. I would have not liked that as a kid. Not enjoyed that console. Luckily, Sega has moved on from that game, and they moved on to another studio known as M2, who I think they own, has quality emulation on video games. They love preserving video games. So this is what they do. This is their bread and butter. So Sega asked them to make a Sega Genesis Mini, and they were like, oh yeah, we can do that. And there you go, they released it. Now the thing about this is that the Sega Genesis Mini sold well, and Sega decided to start releasing more classic consoles. So, you got the Game Gear Micro, which is more like a collector's item than an actual mini console. I mean, the screen is the size of a bottle cap or something, I don't know. But it only released in Japan, and to my knowledge, it had 4 games on 4 separate consoles. So you have Sonic the Hedgehog on one, Puyo Puyo on another one. It was quite strange. It was more, a novelty item. The keychain, basically. But in 2020, Sega said that they were still interested in making Sega consoles, re-releasing Sega consoles. So, the fans started speculating. What console would Sega re-release next? Could it have been a Sega Saturn Mini? You did the Genesis, you might as well do the next console being the Saturn. But could it be a Master System Mini? Go back to the Master System because you skipped it? But what people mostly wanted was a Sega Dreamcast Mini. And the reason why people wanted it was because the head person who produces Sega consoles, the Sega Retro consoles, said, oh, we're interested in a Sega Dreamcast Mini, if you guys were wondering. He said specifically that he was looking in between something, the SG-1000 and the Sega Dreamcast. And this got people speculating that it was going to be a Sega Dreamcast. Alright, so 2 years later, here we are now, and Sega finally announces their next mini console. And it's the Sega Genesis again. Okay, why? Was it so successful for the first one, you had to do a second one? And one of the reasons I think they went with the Genesis one was because it was cheaper, and the emulation, they know it well, and I don't know, they feel like they could have done it again, probably make money off it again. Now, here's the thing. With this mini console, they're adding Sega CD games. That's right, guys, Sega CD. Now, if you didn't know what the Sega CD was, it was an add-on for the Sega Genesis that allowed you to play CD games, quality CD games. So they would have CD music and stuff like that. It sold okay, but Sega thought it could have sold better back in the 90s. But they're releasing this Sega Genesis 2, and it will come with Sega CD games. And right now, I'm going to tell you the game list for the Sega Genesis Mini 2. So, the first game on this console is Sliphead? Sleepy, if I'm saying it right. And from the previews I've seen of the game, it's a shmup where you pilot the ship. Looks very good. I think it uses polygons from what I understand, from my understanding. Okay, the next game is Shining Force CD. Now, Shining Force was a Sega franchise in the 90s. Think of Fire Emblem from Nintendo, but, you know, Sega's version of Fire Emblem. It's basically that, Sega's version of Fire Emblem. And Sega decides to release a version for Sega CD, which I heard was completely different from the first two games. It's like a completely different game from those two. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna release Sega CD games, you might as well release Shining Force CD. This was a no-brainer to put on Sonic the Hedgehog CD. Again, Sonic the Hedgehog is the mascot for Sega, if you didn't know that. And that was the best-selling Sega CD game. So, no, definitely this one's going to be there. Probably the worst out of all the Genesis Sonic games. There's a lot of exploration to do, and Sonic kind of moves slow. But if you want to have fun with it, it's not a bad game. But it's just, you know, not as good as, like, Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I'd rather play those games than Sonic CD. Alright, the next game is Mansion of Hidden Souls. Now, I knew nothing about this game as of today, and from what I've seen of it, it's a point-and-click adventure game that uses a 3D model house. So, you know what it kind of reminds me of? And this is kind of weird. I used to own this I Spy game, I Spy Spooky Mansion, and that's what it reminds me of. That was a point-and-click game for Nintendo Wii, and I owned it as a kid. It just reminds me of that from all the setting, you know, being in a spooky mansion and stuff. But I've never played the game, so maybe if I play it, it'll be a little different. And the final Sega CD game is Popful Mail. Now, this was a Sega CD game, one of the later releases from what I've heard, and I think from my knowledge, it was originally supposed to feature Sonic's sister, but fans complained that they didn't want this and just wanted the original Japanese game, so that Sega decided to cancel Sister Sonic, is what it was going to be called. And they got working designs to make the game. I mean, it was a very popular game in Japan, so I can see why it was on here. Alright, now on to the Genesis games. The first one we got is Virtua Racing. Now this one's very interesting. So, the cartridge itself, it was more powerful than a standard Genesis cartridge. It used polygon stuff in it, because the original Virtua Racing was a 3D polygonal game. And it was very popular in arcades, so when they brought it home to Genesis, they kept those polygons. It was the only game on the Genesis to actually use that graphical heat. And I think the reason why they wanted to do this was because of Star Fox and how that had a 3D FX chip, the Super FX, and how it revolutionized gaming with polygons and stuff like that. So Sega wanted to do what Nintendo was doing. Alright, the next game is Bonanza Brothers. Now, Bonanza Bros, or Bonanza Brothers, whatever you want to call it, is a Sega arcade game where you play as two thieves collecting cash. This is one of the less powerful games on this console, from what I'm seeing. I've never played it, but it looks like fun for people who actually have played it. And it's 2-player if you really want to play with friends. You grab treasure, try not to get captured by the guards, and make it out safely. Alright, the next game is Shining in the Darkness. This was a prequel to Shining Force, from what I can tell. And it's a dungeon crawler, nothing too much to talk about here. It's fine for what it was. I played a little bit. I didn't enjoy it as much as some people say, but hey, if you like Shining Force, you might as well play this game. Alright, the next game is Thunder Force 4, or Lightning Force if you live here in the States. It's one of the greatest shmups on the Genesis, and Sega fully owns it, so yeah, it needs to be here. If it wasn't on the original Genesis Mini, it has to be on this one. Alright, the next one was a Japanese exclusive, and I'll talk about why it's important this is a Japanese exclusive in a little bit. Magical Toratuno? I don't know how to pronounce it, but apparently it was a TV show in Japan, and they made a game out of it. It was made by Game Freak, the guys who made Pokemon. And it's okay, it's like a children's game. I've only played it a little bit. I played it this afternoon after hearing about the announcement. It's a children's game. You can glide using his like bat wings and stuff, and he has magical abilities. I've never watched the show, so if someone could fill me in on what the show is all about, I would love to know. I would actually be very interested. And the final game announced for the Sega Genesis Mini 2 is Fantasy Zone, which they're remaking. They're building it from the ground up and remaking it for Genesis hardware. It'll be pretty cool to see. I mean, it's Fantasy Zone. It's nothing too big to be excited about. But hey, nice work. More games will be revealed in the future. They'll have up to more than 50 games, and it will come out October 27th. Now, here's where we get into the pros and cons of this. One of the things I have to say is that, why the Genesis again? You already did it once, why again? And from what I've heard is because Sega, the Genesis was their biggest console. It was their greatest console of all time. It was the best-selling one, so you might as well milk it as you can. So, hey, release a Genesis Mini 2. Hopefully it will sell well. The first model did sell well, but I was kind of wishing it was like a Saturn or a Dreamcast. You know, something a little bit more powerful. Something away from the Genesis. And to put it in perspective, it would be like Nintendo. Now, Nintendo has said they're interested in releasing more classic consoles like the NES and SNES. But imagine if Nintendo announces that they're making an NES Classic 2 and a Super Nintendo Classic 2. Now, I would be excited, but come on, move on to the N64, the Game Boy, the GameCube. One of the other things about the Genesis Mini 2 that I think is negative is that it's not coming out in North America, or it hasn't been announced for a North American release. So far, from what I've heard, it's only in Japan. And that's one of the big reasons. So a lot of these games may not even come out here in North America like they did in Japan. Like Sonic CD, yeah, that's gonna be on there. Like Thunder Force 4 will be on there. Virtual Racing I can see on there. But I can see them like swapping Bonanza Bros or something like that. Why only Sega CD games? Why also, where's the 32X games? I mean, and one of the reasons why I don't think there'll be 32X games on here is because Virtual Racing. Now, Virtual Racing had a version on the Sega 32X called Virtual Racing Deluxe, and it's nowhere in sight. They're just using the original. So I think it's only just Sega Genesis and Sega CD. So what, are we gonna get a Sega Genesis Mini 3 in like 2025 with 32X games? I hope not. And I do hope this comes out to the US, but I'm probably not gonna get it. One thing is that you can easily hack your Genesis to add all these games onto it. So basically, if you don't know about hacking the Genesis Mini, you can look up tutorials online. They're very simple to do, very easy. But basically, it's like free DLC if you have a Genesis Mini already and know how to hack it. But I'm not saying you should resort to piracy. I'm just saying if it doesn't come out in the States, then maybe you should do that, but I'm not resorting to it. I would support Sega any way I could, and I would buy the Mini 2, but I'm just not interested in it. So now I'm gonna guess this is gonna be my wish list for the Genesis Mini 2, what else they could put on the system. So for Sega Genesis games, they definitely need to add what they left out of the first one. Definitely Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Y-Star, Revenge of Shinobi, Sonic 3 Blast, Toe Jam and Earl 2, Streets of Rage 1 and 3, Golden Axe 2, and whatever they can get their hands on. Sega CD, I don't know a lot about Sega CD games, so I can't really say, but I've heard about a game called Snatcher, and people love it because it was created by Hideo Kojima. And if you don't know who Hideo Kojima is, he is the father of the Metal Gear franchise. So a lot of fans love that game. So that will probably definitely be on the Sega CD if it comes over here in the States. They also announced like arcade games for it. So what are we gonna get, like a Virtua Fighter and stuff like that? Who knows what we'll get in there, but it's gonna be very interesting to see. As for bonus games, I don't know what else. Oh, and not to mention they could make. Who knows? Maybe they could like release like a Sonic fan game or something on there. For all I care about, and make a new Sonic game on there. People would have loved it. A little bit of an update while I was making this video. Turns out, in an interview with Yosuke Otomura, the head producer of Sega's Retro Division, and he states that yes, there will be a North American and European release of the Sega Genesis Mini 2, but it may not come out until the system is released in Japan due to a chip shortage around the world. This chip shortage is also the reason why they did not create a Sega Saturn or Dreamcast Mini, as the chips to produce those consoles would make them too expensive. This is also why they won't be releasing any 32X games on the Genesis Mini 2, since the 32X uses the same processors as the Saturn. Now, I just want to say that I'm happy that Sega is making the Genesis Mini 2. Oh, and also you can change the sound effects for your system from the Model 1 to the Model 2. Wow, that's wild. But anyways, that's going to be it for today. Make sure you like and subscribe, and if you want more content, tell me in the comments below what you think about the Sega Genesis Mini 2. I'm LMC, and I'll see you guys next time.